Want to put out a little disclaimer to the information I've been sharing to make sure everyone is clear. I'm doing my best to try to explain my experience with this and the experience of others. I'm not saying this is the only way to lose weight, and I'm not saying this is absolutely the best way to lose weight. My own personal beliefs towards it are just that, but I want to make sure I'm not misleading anybody or misdirecting anybody in any particular way. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm spitting a lot of smelly science over here and giving you guys the best information that I can possibly share. And at the moment, at this time in 2025, I feel that this is the best diet for me moving forward. And I feel like it can fit for a lot of other people as well. Sometimes I think when people see my situation, they say, "Oh, that's Mark. That's for him." And some people even sometimes say, "Oh, that's nice." Oh, it must be nice, right? Because I'm wealthy and I'm shredded and all these other things, right? But I have similar complications with situations, just like you guys do. I just happen to have a lot more money. I just happen to have convenience at my fingertips a little easier. But there were times in my life when I didn't have it, and I had to figure out things the way that many of you are playing along as well. What I want to start out by saying is, what is the reason why the sugar diet? Why is the sugar diet even being talked about? This is a ludicrous diet, right? You're primarily having fructose and sucrose. Fructose is found in fruit, and sucrose is also oftentimes found in fruit. Look it up, talk with Chat GPT, Google it. Maybe Ryan can do a search as well, and we can kind of provide you guys with some information on what fruits are, high in sucrose, and what else is high in sucrose. So we know that sugar is high in sucrose. Why are we after these forms of sugars? I thought these were simple sugars. I thought these sugars were bad. Well, the reason why this diet's taken off and the reason why it's gaining so much traction is for one simple reason. It is working. Not just for me, not just for someone who's ripped and wealthy and jacked and tan, but it's working for a lot of other people as well. We're seeing dramatic results from people like Cole Robinson, Durian Ryder, an OG in the space. He's been talking about it for a long time. Make sure you follow those guys on YouTube if you're interested in this diet so you can get more information. Those guys have really incredible information. And Durian has a different perspective on it. He's actually vegan and actually eats a lot more like rice and potatoes and stuff like that too, on top of the sugar. And he kind of claims it's like impossible to get fat off of it. But he's a very lean guy. He's a smaller guy. Cole's a smaller guy as well. Durian Ryder shares with me my love for performance-enhancing drugs, but Cole does not. Cole's a natural guy, and Cole's trying to get people off of all drugs, ADHD medications, caffeine, kratom, you name it. He's trying to help people get off all these things because he doesn't feel you need it when you have sugar. So Ryan's taking a second to look up some of these things. What do we got over there, Ryan?
So looks like apples, apricots, bananas, cantaloupe, clementines, dates, grapefruit, and guava, peaches, oranges, pineapples, and bananas, apples, grapes, cherries, and figs.
Cool. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and just screenshot that, and screen capture that, and then you have it. And you can kind of, pick the ones that you like too, right? And also, I don't think there's any reason to be picky about the fruit. Some people are like, "Oh, bananas have a little bit more starch," and I saw somebody writing a blog post about how you should have pieces of fruit rather than things like berries, because the berries are hard to track and figure out. And they're like, and this one article actually talked about for a male, having between 25 and 40 servings of fruit in a day. It's like, man, that's quite a bit. So for me personally, I don't really want to eat that much like that, but it is liberating to know that you can eat that much like that. That's pretty awesome. I am eating apples. I am eating oranges. I am eating bananas. I'm also having blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, cherries. I like all those things. But again, to reiterate, if you're just joining us, I'm going to be taking questions in just a little bit. What is the sugar diet? Why is it gaining so much traction? Is this carte blanche to just like have as much sugar as you absolutely can possibly stuff your face with? I don't think that's the point of this diet. The point of this diet is, and what makes it unique from other diets, and I could be wrong, somebody could have already created this and I'm unaware, but this diet is one of the few diets that is going to help to ramp up your metabolism so you can eat more. Stan Efferding, I'm going to be interviewing him later today for a future Mark Smelly Bell on this very channel. I'm going to be going back and forth with him on the sugar diet, and I'm sure he'll have his conjectures and concerns about the fat calories being too low and the protein even being like whacked out of the diet and stuff too, which we'll talk about in a moment. But the diet is gaining traction because, again, it is working really well for a lot of people. And it seems like the more that Cole talks about it, and it seems like the more videos I do, the hungrier you guys are to retain the information. And the comments have been amazing. So keep the comments coming, whether they're mean, rude, or otherwise, just keep flowing them in. I just want to know your reaction to this. I want to know how this is all sitting with you. Before we move forward, I want to show this clip of Joe Rogan, because years ago, Joe Rogan had Cam Hanes on, and they were talking about how Joe Rogan did this challenge, and he nearly like completely killed his friends because they had this challenge where they were trying to like, I don't know, like burn as many calories as they can. Rogan started to work out like 7 hours a day, and some pretty crazy stuff started to happen. But what he shared in this video here, I think is really important. This was sent to me by Russell Buddy. Shout out to Russell Buddy on Instagram. But I think this is really important. And to hear in the context in which he mentions this, I think is awesome. Last time we tried to play something, it didn't, people weren't able to hear it when we played something live. So if that happens again, please just let us know. We're doing our best to try to work with the technology while we're live.
But what I did do when we had that Sober October challenge with Tom and Bert and Ari is I went kind of crazy, and lost my mind. I was doing 7 hours of cardio a day because I wanted Bert Kreischer to
7
die.
hours cardio.
Because Bert really thought he was going to win. So I watched John Wick like 50 times in a row.
Did you do 7 a day?
Oh yeah, I was doing 7 hours a day.
Whew.
Yeah, I was trying to kill him. I was literally trying to kill him. I was running hills.
What if he would have died?
Then he dies. I was like, he's talking shit. He was talking shit. He was
That's
like,
what you get.
That's Bert. Like, Bert will tell you he can do the splits. I'm like, okay, do the splits.
Yeah.
He can't do the splits. Like, he'll tell you he could beat you in push-ups. Okay, he can't beat you in push-ups, but he'll always say it, which is fine.
Yeah.
But there was something about that competition where we're all kind of going crazy. We all decided to never do that again because at the end of the month,
unhealthy.
we're like, it was bad for your family, bad for your kids never saw me. I was like, daddy's fucking screaming in the gym all day.
Damn.
I set off the fire alarm because I sweat so much in the gym that the fire alarm went off.
Holy smokes.
That's pushing it.
Puddles around me. Puddles.
That's
just puddles. I was just drinking water and soda. I was drinking like cream sodas because I needed sugar. Yeah. I just felt that's what I wanted. I wanted soda. So I was drinking like sugary sodas and just running like a fucking maniac. And at the end of it, I was like, I can't.
So, you know, he just intuitively was reaching for soda. He intuitively was reaching for sugar. A lot of you may have like been on a run or had a hard workout, especially in the summertime when it's a little hotter out. And how many times have you like just thought to yourself, you know what, man, I just want like fruit juice or fruit or something super sweet. But then you're like, nah, I'm on a diet. I'm not supposed to be eating sugar. Sugar's bad for you. This is the most liberating thing that's happened in the diet culture in a long time. I know that there's some people that have already had this belief, so I'm not trying to pretend, and I'm not in any way trying to take credit for this diet. I'm also not in any way trying to say that like this is a new discovery that sugar's not bad for you. But people nowadays think that sugar, they'd rather take a GLP-1 pharmaceutical drug that is having, for some people, a lot of negative side effects. For people that are taking it appropriately, it seems like it's actually working really well. And I'm a fan of it. And I think that hopefully the technology continues to get better on that. But there's people in our general public right now that are more scared of sugar than they are of Ozempic. That's just something to kind of think about. Like that's really interesting. Is there some negative drawbacks to sugar? I'm sure there is. Look, there's pros and cons to every single thing that we do. Even the simple act of eating is bad and good. You got to eat for survival, but eating can cause inflammation. Even when you eat the right foods, it can cause inflammation. We had Joel Green break down a potato for us, and he talked for like 30 minutes, maybe 15 minutes on each side about the good and the bad of eating a potato. And he sold us. He sold Nsima and I he sold us the good. We're like, yeah, potatoes. And he sold us the bad. And we're like, no, we're not going to eat potatoes, because he had so much convincing and compelling evidence in both directions. So we know there's like a yin and a yang to just about everything. I want to just again discuss the more closely related that you stay to this plan, the better impact it's going to have and the faster results you're going to get. Having the fastest results possible is not always the goal. So for me, what I decided to do is I decided to have about 30 grams of fat a day, about 100 grams of protein a day. And this is just like ish. I'm not obsessing, right? I am paying attention to those fat calories and I am paying attention to when I eat the protein and the fat. I'm trying to do that later in the day. Basically, that's pushed off until past around 5 p.m. But yesterday, I ate probably at like 4. So again, I'm not going to be so crazy about this that I can't live my life. I was eating with a friend, had Jay Campbell over to my home gym, and then had him over the house. We had some steak and some rice. So I'm just going to do that, right? Like I'm not going to completely put myself in some sort of bubble, right? But I'm trying to have the fat and the protein later on in the evening, all throughout the day, because there's this idea of FGF21. I don't know how much it matters. I don't even actually really care that much about it, but it's a practice. It's an experiment. Throughout the day, I am no protein and I am no fat, just fruit and maybe a little bit of vegetables. So there is some protein in that, right? There's some protein in fruit and vegetables. And I think sometimes there's even some fat in some fruits and vegetables. Obviously, I'm not eating things like avocados and stuff like that, or olives, because those are fruits, and coconuts. Those are all fruits that have more than just carbohydrates and sugar. Ryan, can you read a little bit about FGF20? Looks like you pulled it up, right?
Yeah, FGF21, or fibroblast growth factor 21, is a hormone that plays a crucial role in regulating energy homeostasis and metabolism. It is primarily secreted from the liver and adipose tissue and is involved in various metabolic processes, including glucose and lipid metabolism. FGF21 is induced by stressors like exercise, fasting, and high carbohydrate intake. It has been linked to improvements in insulin sensitivity, weight loss, and even potential lifespan extension.
Again, this diet, we know that we read this to you before on the live chat, but we think that this could be something that's actually important. And sometimes the principle of awareness is a key factor in the former Soviet Union's them building out the weightlifters that they built. It was one of their core principles, was the principle of awareness. They found that when they told the athletes what to do, it had a great response. And when they told them when, it had a great response. But when they told them why, is when it had a multiplier of 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like when everything just kind of went through the roof, because then the athlete then understood not just sort of halfway what they were doing and guessing based off of their previous training knowledge. They understood the fundamentals. They understood the basics of the training that they were doing. And because they understood those basics, they were able to put more emphasis on the particular goal for the day. They had an intent of the day. Is something I said many years back about your weight training. When you have an intent of the day, my intent for today was to do a good challenging cardio session on the assault bike. So I went outside, I put the assault bike in the sun, and I went out there for 20 minutes, and I found a pace, a tempo, an RPM, a amount of whatever the hell the thing's called, force or whatever it is, that I could sustain the whole time. And I was trying to keep the RPMs between 50 and 60 the entire time. And the watts, sorry, that's what I was looking for. The watts I tried to keep those above 250. And sometimes it would go down, but I was trying to keep it up, because the idea for me today was to work at a particular heart rate. That was the intent, and just keep it there, not to go up and down, up and down, up and down. So sometimes when you understand the intent of why you're doing something and you have a little bit more knowledge, it can be really helpful. And I don't want to say, oh, just do it. Just do it. Yes, I want you to do it. And I don't think you should worry too much and too heavily about some of the science of it. I do think that you should jump in and just give it a go, give it a shot, because if you're here and you're looking for diet information, what you're doing is currently not working. How do we know what diet's working? It's in my opinion, most people, when they're dieting, they're trying to lose weight. Most people, when they're counting calories, they're trying to count calories and get the calories low enough to where they can lose weight. And that's actually one of my problems with counting calories. And that's one of my problems with a lot of other diets. And the reason why I've explored and jumped around so far to do carnivore and keto and all these other practices was I never wanted to get involved in counting calories because I think it's for clowns personally. I'm not trying to insult anybody, but I just think, I guess maybe I am trying to insult everybody maybe, but I just think it's like a fool's game. It doesn't make sense to me because almost all the time when people are counting their calories, they're trying to consume less energy. And we already know, like talk about science, we already know this. And we've known this for years before they ever even did the science. We know that when you reduce calories, that your body reduces the amount of calories that it burns. Like that's just the way that it works. And so now you're in this like battle of will all the time. And I don't want to be in that battle of will. Carbohydrates yield a really good energy pack, right? And it's quick energy. I know that fats are double and even then some, right? They're 9 calories per, but fat just works way differently. And one of my problems a lot of times with a ketogenic style diet or with a diet that was mainly protein and fat was getting from one workout to the next always felt kind of terrible because I was like, I can't really eat anything. And therefore you end up with a lot of intermittent fasting, which there's nothing wrong with some intermittent fasting. It can be great, but then you don't have a good energy source. And exactly what Joe Rogan was talking about there, he just felt like he had to reach for sugar. And I know a lot of you have probably felt that way before, probably intuitively. You're just like, I just need carbs. And maybe we were looking at it the wrong way because we were shoveling down some starches and stuff. And those aren't the type of carbs that everybody needs. Maybe bodybuilders are, again, they're in a unique position. They hold so much muscle mass that, yeah, they can afford to eat yams and sweet potatoes and rice multiple times a day and really keep their glycogen stores full and keep themselves. They want to be bulky. They want to be like dense. But the longer I've been doing this stuff and the longer I've been in this game, I kind of realize some stuff's kind of dumb. At least for me for now, like building up my legs to be like bulky and just like cumbersome, it's going to make it that much harder for me to get my ass around the track. And for a lot of you, you need to lose a lot of weight, 50, 60, 80, 100, 120, 200 pounds. There's really no room for you to really be thinking about like, yeah, I want my arms to be bigger and I want my bench to be a little bit more. I think, again, you have to shoot the alligator closest to the boat. The biggest problem that you have right now is that you have too much body fat on you. Man, woman, child, doesn't matter who it is. If you have too much fat on you, it's something that you want to try to address in some particular way. Or, have your parents help you with it. If you're a kid, it's a tough situation when you're a kid. But for you adults out there, you can take charge of it and you can utilize the sugar diet. Before I take a couple questions, which I'll do just in a second, I wanted to talk briefly about the lower protein. The lower protein seems to be associated with the FGF21 as well. And the lower protein, I think, is a good practice for you guys to mess around with just to see, so you can be liberated away from the protein. You don't have to be so attached to it all the time. And also, you can have days where you just have higher protein. I've talked about this from the very beginning of this. I said, I'm going to probably end up on some sort of cyclical diet. And that's exactly where this is headed. I do want to experiment. I do want to try a few, 3 or 5 days with like no or super low protein, under like 60 grams, because that was recommended by some people. And maybe even try a couple days of veganism to see where that puts me. But one of my goals right now, I do want to weigh 200 pounds, weighed 212 today. So this journey is coming to an end. But I basically want to just kind of look like I'm on trend without being on trend. Somebody asked on Instagram, they said, hey, has anything changed? Like, is there what else has changed in here? First of all, realize that sometimes when I post a picture, I, Ryan and I are taking pictures and we're posting the best pictures we possibly can, right? Also, if I'm going to throw something on Instagram that looks shredded, I might tweak the settings a little bit to make it look even better, just to capture some attention, right? That's kind of the game that you play when you're on Instagram. So I just want to be transparent and clear about that. Although I am ripped, I am really lean. I have veins in my calves. I have veins in my hamstrings, my shoulders, my lats. I'm starting to get some striations through the quads. Like I am in really good shape, but if you see me in person, I might not look as shredded as, a picture of me having a pump post workout, right? And taking a picture like in good lighting. You understand? Like I'm just making sure that's clear. But nothing has changed since I started. I weighed probably around 220 to 222, 218-ish when I started this mission. I was messing around with some fasting and some dry fasting, and I did get my body weight to register all the way down to 203 pounds at one point. But that was pretty much just a dehydrated state. And I do think that dry fasting does have some good application, and it's something that I think I will use as a tool, much like I think that sugar fasting is a great tool. I think that this is something that could be done probably just periodically, but just for people that have more body fat, they're just going to want to do it for more days in a row. When it comes to the people being super worried and concerned about losing muscle mass, remember, we're going to signal the body to retain muscle mass by training, by lifting, and following some of the protocols of hypertrophy. Ryan, maybe you can look up some protocols for hypertrophy. It's probably not hard to find a couple of different things that are mentioned. I do know that Brent Contreras actually made a chart at one point, which shout out to him. He did a great job making a hypertrophy chart, and it explained very diligently and very accurately in a tiny format. Like it was small, like it wasn't like 10 pages or anything. It was literally a chart, and it kind of explained the protocol for hypertrophy. It might be there on the left. Yeah, man, that might be it. I'm not sure if we'll be able to bring it up a little bit bigger there, but you guys can do some of these searches too. I think that might be it. I don't remember. Anyway, whatever the glute guy, whatever the situation is, there's a lot of principles for hypertrophy that you guys can look up. Usually, it's telling people to have a certain amount of time under tension. There's a certain amount of sets and reps that are usually associated with it. And so, look into some of that stuff. You've heard us talk about it quite a bit on the podcast and stuff. Yeah, Ryan's kind of zooming in on some of this. It's like a weird chart that we can't quite, but it's just kind of showing you some of the primary goals of it. I think the chart looked a little different than that. I think it was even more plain than that. I think it was just like boxes explaining different ways to get bigger. Anyway, when you send a signal of hypertrophy, or you send the body a signal for even some strength gains, you are sending the body a signal for muscle synthesis. I think that might be it, actually. Yeah, there we go. That looks more like it. I know we're sidetracking everybody on this, but it's just good to be able to provide stuff. Some of these things make it a pain in the ass to blow some of these things up. And maybe it's because we're supposed to be not cheap and pay for some of these things, God damn it. But, that's going to be a crucial way that you're going to be able to send a signal to the body to hold on to muscle mass, is to train. Another way to do it, yes, is to eat protein. Another way to do it is to take some steroids, right? But also, I wonder, there we go. Ryan found it. Ryan's a savage. Yeah, so screen capture that shit, or, just do a search, but it says evidence-based training guidelines for hypertrophy. And it gives you very specific protocol. Now, if you're outside this protocol a little bit, no reason to be scared or nervous. Like, you're not going to die. You're probably still going to get some hypertrophy gains. It just might not be as fast. That's kind of the thing to think about or consider. But when you're eating fruit and vegetables, you're still going to be consuming amino acids. You're still going to be consuming, maybe you're not consuming like a lot of complete proteins and so forth. But it's just for a couple days. And then you could throw meat in on particular days to make sure you're kind of holding on to that muscle mass. Because Cole said he's tried this stuff, he's experimented with it, and what he found was when he went super low protein, like zero protein for too many days, he just started to get really sore and noticed that he had a hard time recovering from the workouts. And he's a guy that's natural, so we got to keep that in mind. A lot of you that are going to be playing along or doing this diet, a lot of you probably are going to be natural. Some of you are going to be like me, maybe not so natty. But I wanted to mention that, I don't think there's a lot of reason to be super nervous about losing muscle mass. Again, I have to repeat myself a lot on this. Whenever you're going to lose weight, you're going to lose muscle mass. I did a photo shoot for BSN and I was probably 245, 250 pounds. That's pretty much the biggest and leanest that I've ever been. I got all the way up to 290 pounds and kind of had a trace of abs in there. Not real abs, but a trace of like fat guy abs in there at 290. And yeah, man, I had a crazy amount of muscle mass, but there's no way to hold on to that muscle mass and lose weight. I lost weight slowly. Like I've lost my weight over the course of 10 years. I've lost my weight over the course of 10 years. So even with losing weight slowly and even with being on steroids. So like think about that. I want you guys to think about that. I haven't come off at all. Ryan's bringing up some pictures. They're pretty ridiculous. What's great too is that my body's lean and my face is still pretty fat. That's kind of my trademark, is to have a big fat face. But yeah, I've been on performance enhancing drugs the whole time. I still wasn't able to hold on to all the muscle mass. It's just not going to happen. I don't want to, say it's completely impossible, and some people are like, but I got my body fat tested on it. Those things aren't that accurate. DEXA scan can be pretty accurate, but a lot of the stuff can be swayed or manipulated by, water weight and so forth. But in my opinion, for every couple of pounds that you lose, for every 5 pounds, you're probably going to lose at least 1. For every 5 pounds of weight that you lose, you're probably going to lose at least 1 pound of muscle. Now, I am not saying in any way that you should ignore the fact that you're trying to preserve muscle either when you're trying to be on a diet. But it doesn't seem like the route to go is to really jack the protein up. Protein seems to be linked to having some impact on your insulin sensitivity, along with fat, especially saturated fat. I'm sure as we go down the rabbit hole of this diet further, that more and more things will pop up. I have a little bit of a theory developing myself, but I'm not quite sure about it yet. I actually think that you can probably have some MCT oil on it because it's just a little different than some of the other fats. But I wouldn't push it still, because you don't want to have high fat and high carbs. You don't want to be on like the Paul Saladino diet where he's eating honey and all these different things, and he's having like high amounts of saturated fat. He has a lot of activity in his life, and so maybe he's able to get away with that in some way. But so that's the last thing I want to talk about, and we'll take some questions, I promise. With the carnivore diet, you have to ask yourself, why has the carnivore diet been something where people started to adopt bringing in fruit? My brother and I decided upon that within weeks or months of doing the carnivore diet for the first time, like 6 or 7 years ago. We talked about that on Joe Rogan. We talked about that, and we said we modified the diet. And Joe said, how so? We said we added fruit. And he was like, yeah, but fruit has sugar in it. And then we actually explained to him, like, hey, look, fruit has cofactors. It has these other things. It's got fiber. It's going to, be somewhat, regulated. And we didn't notice anything negative from fruit. The main thing for us back then that we didn't know, but I started to discover probably about two years ago, maybe 3 years ago, was that if I'm going to bring the fruits in, going to bring the carbohydrates in, and they started to accumulate, above like 100 grams of carbohydrates, then I really needed to pay attention to my fats. And that's when I started to bring my fats down, because I'm like, man, I'm probably eating like 250 grams of fat in a day. Like, that's a lot. I started to etch it down towards like 100, and I kept it there, and that worked pretty good. But I still wasn't really losing weight the way that I wanted. Eventually ended up kind of landing on this particular diet. But why have other carnivore people? Why did Paul Saladino follow suit? Why have other people adopted meat, honey, fruit, stuff like that? Why have they done that? It's because I think they don't have good energy. I think they don't feel great. And then also think about this: there's a savory palate, right? And there's a sweet palate. Why do we have those? Huh? We have those because we probably need both, right? We probably need both. So in the context and in the confines of this diet, I am trying to communicate to you guys the best way that I can, that the fats and the proteins are going to be the thing that are going to slow down your weight loss. But in no way, shape, or form am I saying that fat and protein are bad in any way. They are still our friends. They're still our homies. We still need them. The fats you may need for performance in terms of keeping ligament tissue and tendon health and all these things, it's possible that we might need some of those fats for lubrication, right? For joint health and so on. On top of that, for some people that may not have a lot of body fat to burn, like it's easier to say like, oh, well, if someone's continuing to break down fat because they're still getting fat from their body, maybe, and I don't know this for sure, but maybe that's a little similar to dietary fat. It's just that you're happen to rip it off your body than you are to grab it from your refrigerator. That makes sense? I mean, that's some smelly science for you right there from me. And so where I think the worry could be, or the concern could be, not so much just if you're lean, but if you're quite a bit leaner than you've been in the past, that there could be some injury potential to maybe look out for. And again, that would be the reason to occasionally have a day where you bump those fats up. Problem solved. And then in terms of veganism, in terms of, people on the sugar diet that are, vegan, a lot of times they look malnourished, but those people, they usually don't train. They usually don't lift. A lot of times those people have had like gut and health issues for years and years and years. And so they've always been kind of on the smaller side. They don't really, muscle mass is not a goal for them. So they're not going to look muscular. They might not even look healthy sometimes, right? They just might not look that good. So as some more conjecture and more people get revved up about this and the carnivores start to attack the sugar people, we're probably going to see those people get made fun of for being skinny, undersized, and just maybe not looking that healthy. I also want to back that up by saying what we think doesn't look that healthy anymore, actually a lot of times is quite healthy. We're just like, oh my God, that person's way too skinny. But I realized, yes, there's the skin and bones. Some people are extremely thin, just like people are on the extremes of being heavy. People are on the extremes of being very, very small. And I feel for both sides. I mean, both sides, there's some eating disorders going on, and there's a lot of stuff going on that I don't know anything about. So I'm not going to even really comment too much about that. But I think, when you're looking at some people that are doing these things, you're not always just like looking at them and thinking that they all need to, look like a professional athlete. You're going to some of these people in hopes to gain more knowledge, right? In hopes to gain more knowledge so you can make better decisions about your own health and maybe the health of your family. All right, we'll take some questions.
So Mark, we're taking questions from Instagram. YouTube shut off our chat. So anybody that wants to submit a question that's listening to this, do it on Mark's Instagram story. So there's a question box on there. So that's Instagram, Mark Smelly Bell. All right. So first question is from Tenacious Nate. It says, what is the significance of front loading the day with the sugar and then following up with the protein starch in the evening, rather than evenly distributing the macros over 2 to 3 meals throughout the day?
Yeah, a lot of this is based on like the honey diet stuff. Some of this is based on convenience. Like it's just easier. It's flat out just easier, and that's something I thought about the other day, no more meal prep. Meal prep's gone because you're going to have a starch once a day and some lean meat once a day. Just do it when you're home. Do it when you get home from work. No more meal prep. How great is that? Bring some fucking grapes with you to work, Maybe bring a little thing of fruit juice if you think you're going to get like, thirsty, hungry, whatever, a banana. Yeah, no more meal prep. Fruit is like God's version of meal prep for us. So just yield that around with you wherever you go. I just hate to continue to bring up like any science about it, because I think that the beauty of some diets is that you just try them, you just do them, and you start to learn how it's working for you. And the science usually catches up way later on. But what we're trying to do in this particular situation, we're basically trying to hammer insulin sensitivity. That the key to this diet is we're trying to ramp up the metabolism, which most diets don't address that. You're also trying to ramp up your sensitivity to insulin. The more sensitive you are to insulin, the more efficient your body will be able to utilize the carbohydrates coming in from the fruits and the honey and the straight sugar and the Sour Patch Kids and whatever else it was you decided to eat in a particular day. We're trying to do that as much as possible throughout the day, and we don't want any interruption in our insulin management and our glucose management from fat or from protein. So you don't have any of them. You just completely get rid of them. Fat and protein are going to have impacts on how your body is dealing with the carbohydrates. So don't have them at all. Just don't have them at all until later on. I'm sorry. Fats and protein. I don't know if I said that correctly or if I said fat and carbs. Fat and protein are going to have an impact on the insulin sensitivity. We don't want to fuck with that. We just want straight carbohydrates, straight sugar. Hopefully that's understood. Later on in the day, it's not like anything happens magical later on in the day, but your insulin sensitivity does tend to go down towards the end of the day. That probably has a lot to do with like light, circadian rhythm, how you typically eat. There's probably a lot of factors in there, but in general, that's what happens. So as you get to the evening hours, you want to start to switch over to lean meat, vegetables, and if you want to enjoy a potato and some rice or something like that, then like go for it. But if you want weight loss even faster, then skip the starch. After you have your dinner, though, I think you can still eat, some fruit and stuff like that too. If you are kind of feeling like you have a sweet tooth, like don't deny it. Like just I think when you're doing this diet, you can learn what you're allowed to do for yourself as long as the scale continuously goes down. But I would say don't block or blunt or mess with your appetite in any particular way. If you're hungry and you want to eat something, then eat it. If you're like, man, I still want something sweet, have another something sweet. Like don't even, especially for the first like 2 weeks, just don't even worry about it. And then once you get into it, you can start to say, all right, well, I need to be a little bit more reasonable with this.
Okay, Theodore.sib says, why are you so against promoting a well-balanced diet? This is such a dangerous misinformation that I can't even.
I would say that I don't feel that this is dangerous. The most important thing for people to do in America, our biggest enemy, our biggest enemy is fat, is being fat. And so there needs to be a war on fat. We tried to have a war on drugs at one point, and we need to address people being fat. A well-balanced diet? Seriously? This is well-balanced. You're eating a ton of fruit and a ton of vegetables. That's what I'm promoting, is that you eat a lot of fruit and vegetables and then lean meat. So where is the danger in eating fruit and vegetables and lean meat? I know that I'm occasionally mentioning Sour Patch Kids, but I think I'm making it clear that I don't think that should be the staple of your diet. Candy and so forth, like all those things are going to stick to your teeth, the citric acid and all that stuff and all the other chemicals and things that are in there. They're not amazing for us, but we also know, you hammer down a lot of fruit, you're going to be consuming a lot of pesticides and so forth. So like there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide when it comes to your health. But there's a major terrorist in this country, and it's called fat, and it needs to be eradicated. We need to get rid of it. We need to kill it. And this is the best route currently, I believe, to get rid of it. There's a lot of diets that can work too. So, go ahead and go do them. Go ahead and do the diet that you think is best for you. And I'll do this one, but you have to look at what's happening in the comment section. I've been posting stuff for years. I get 13 comments, 40 comments, depending on what I post. Something will pop up here and there where it does a little bit better. Instagram, YouTube, comments are going crazy. Most of the comments are people sharing their results of what's happening to them. In the end, I think that the macros at the end of the day, like at the end of someone's, like, let's say year, someone follows this for a year, the only thing that's going to like look a little low at the end of the year, their protein might look low in comparison to what we've seen people do previously, but their fats are going to like look a little low. That's the only thing that's going to be low. And I don't think there's anything unsafe about bringing your fats down in an effort to lose body fat. People are fucking fat. Just everywhere you look, you know, go to a Safeway, go to a Walmart, go to a Target, go to a county fair. This summer, go to a county fair and look at how many people could benefit from eating fruits and vegetables. If you went up to somebody, you went up to a whole family and said, hey, I'm going to supply you with fruits and vegetables for the whole year. This is what you're going to do. They would lose a fucking tremendous amount of weight and it would change their life forever. That's what I believe.
Okay, JJ Bear says, so in theory, if I tracked calories to stay in a deficit while doing the sugar diet, then the results would come even faster, right?
Nope. That's the wrong way to do it, wrong way to think about it. You want to eat more because then you're just back in the diet wheel. You know, you're back in that. That doesn't make any sense. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't count. I would say just don't even count calories, but just eat. Just eat. Before people ever counted calories, we were way thinner, right? I'm not saying counting calories makes us fat, but we started counting calories and tracking stuff and we're pretty fat. It's not helping. It doesn't seem to be working. The other diets don't seem to be working that good. The only thing that seems to be working at all seems to be the GLP-1s. Carnivore diet, all these different diets. They're working for some people. It worked for me, right? It works for some percentage of the population, but it's not working that great for a lot of people. And for me, I've tried to share this a million times, and I know like I make a product called Total Carnivore. I know I make the steak shake. I know all this different things. I've tried to communicate with people the best I could that I'm meat-based, that I was meat-based. I would eat a lot of meat and eggs and stuff like that made up a large portion of my diet. And I did do the carnivore diet. I did the carnivore diet every year it came around that Sean Baker would promote it. I was like, oh, let's give this another go. This is going to be fun. And it might be fun for people to follow along because I know that people, they want to be healthier. I know that people want to lose weight. And so I would do that every year. But every year that I did it, I would try to share with people what I was actually doing. There was a period where I did 100 days in a row of carnivore. And at the end of the 100 days, I shared with people and I said, look, me being further carnivore didn't give me any further results. It just didn't. And so I ended up being in the middle. I ended up, using, eating fruit and stuff like that and trying to have other sources of, other foods in there. But the main thing that's true with fasting, the main thing that's true with intermittent fasting, the main thing that's true with keto, the main thing that's true with carnivore and a lot of other diets is most of them are trying to get you in some way, shape, or form to eat less. And this diet ultimately might help people to land on eating less. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to take the average male and have him, instead of his metabolism sputtering and only being able to lose weight off of 1,800 calories a day, which is ridiculous. Let's see what happens when you can start to lose some weight off of 2,600 calories a day or 2,800 calories a day or 3,000 calories a day. That's what we're working on. And we're able to accomplish that by impacting your insulin sensitivity, by training your body to get used to carbohydrates. I think it's pretty simple. It's like not that complicated. So yeah, don't lower your calories. Now look, eating like a pig and going way overboard isn't going to give you exponential more results either. Okay. So that's important to know. Blasting through, 1,000 calorie shake, 1,000 calorie smoothie is not necessarily going to help you burn way more calories later in the day when you go to do your workout, right? So be a little cautious with that. That's not really the mindset that you're after. What you are after is just eat when you're hungry, eat till you're full, and just continue to hammer that fruit and hammer those energy sources so that you can, when you do go to exercise, there's a lot of oomph there and you're able to train a little harder than normal.
Okay, Lift Weights 93. This is a statement. It says lowering fat in both a high carb and low carb diet is how you really diet in the first place. It's the easiest way to track calories.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. And again, fat is very satisfying. It adds a lot of flavor to stuff, and it also takes a while to digest. So it slows down the absorption of your food. And all those things are awesome. But when you don't have fat in the diet, it feels like you just want to overeat. And that's what people noticed in the 80s. And that's why they kind of said that sugar craze, the Susan Powder stuff that was pushed forward so hard, they were saying it's not working because people are overeating. But people weren't overeating on just carbs. And they weren't overeating on like just fat-free snacks. They were also overeating fat as well. So if at that time, if they knew that they needed to lower their fats, they would have been fine. Because there was products out there like Snackwells and some of these different things that were like, you'd have like a third less fat than, the leading Oreo cookies or whatever, but it still had fat in it. And a lot of other products still had too much fat. But when you start to really sink those fats down super low and you're eating carbohydrates, your body's just running hot and it gives you a lot of energy. And so this is really the energy diet, more so than just like the sugar diet. The sugar diet's like a cool, catchy name, but this diet, the emphasis is on revving up your metabolism. And, again, there might have been bodybuilding coaches. There might be some people who've talked about this before. You've heard like little roars of it here and there, but nothing like this. And that's why I try to share with people that even though I know it's not completely novel, it's pretty new. Like what's getting shared now. I mean, Cole only started discovering some of these things that he's onto right now. Cole Robinson, snake diet. Cole only started to discover some of the things that he's sharing right now about 6 weeks ago. So in my opinion, it's new. And yeah, he adopted it from Durian Ryder. Durian Ryder adapted it from this guy. And like, whatever you want to say about it. Again, I'm not trying to take credit for it. And I'm not trying to say that Cole is the inventor of everything good with losing body fat. But it seems like he's doing a good job to me. And it seems like there's a lot of people getting some great results.
Okay, Max Power SNB says, can you feel your metabolism ramping up when you start the sugar diet?
I think the feeling is like, yeah, I want to go. I want to, yeah. Maybe feels like people don't have any sensitivity to caffeine anymore either, which I think is a good thing to get off of, especially when you're trying the sugar diet, because the sugar is going to take over. You won't need the caffeine anymore. But yeah, a lot of people are kind of like addicted to it. But yeah, you just feel like you want to go. You feel like you want to do something. Like right now, I'd rather be still training. I feel like I have a lot of energy to go and do a lot of things. And so I don't know if you like feel your metabolism necessarily like shifting forward, but you're just encouraged and enticed to move way more than normal. Like I don't normally work out at like 7 o'clock at night. I don't normally go on walks at 7 o'clock at night, but I've been doing both more recently. And I think it has to do with the sugar diet.
Alio Shorus says, isn't this kind of like the classic bodybuilding diet? High carb, lean protein, and low fat, but except the carbs are usually in the form of rice or similar.
Yeah, I mean, we can try to say it's similar to this and similar to that, and that this guy invented it and this guy created it, and that, Lee Haney was doing this, or wow, whatever guy, Cybergenics, recommend the same thing, or none of it matters. It's irrelevant. No, bodybuilders haven't been doing this because this is a low protein diet too. Ideally with the sugar diet, you're only basically just having like fruit and fruit juice and maybe some vegetables, and that's it. That's your day. And you run that for 5-7 days in a row, see how much weight you lose. And then you have a day where you throw in some lean meat and then you put that on repeat. You do that over and over again until you get the results that you're looking for. But yeah, I mean, it's similar to a bodybuilding diet in some ways. The fat's lower. But again, here's where it's different than a bodybuilding diet. bodybuilding diets, typically when somebody's getting ready for a bodybuilding show, they're in a caloric deficit. They're in some sort of agreed upon deficit of calories, right? The coach might say, hey, your, metabolic rate is 2,500. So just at rest, you're cranking through 2,500 calories. And then, with exercise, it's XYZ, and they kind of they do a little math on that. And maybe they start somebody out at like 3,500 calories at the beginning of their diet. That's 16 weeks, 20 weeks out, whatever it is. Over time, might titrate that down a little bit, and they're actually bringing up the cardio. So they're doing everything real slowly. They're taking away food on this side, and they are adding in activity. And you're going like this. Because the bodybuilding coaches are smart. They know that if they dip your calories down real low and try to increase your energy right away, you're going to burn out and you're going to look flat. You're not going to look good. You're going to lose a lot of muscle mass and everything's going to go to hell. But this diet doesn't do any of that. This diet is here with the energy, and it's here with the activity, because you're consuming a lot of energy, and your activity, actually your activity would be like down here. Your energy would be here. And as you start to do this diet, you start bringing that energy up even higher, and your activity starts to chase after that. And then you end up with this pretty cool balance of activity and energy. And at some point, you're going to want to continue. It's going to be a little different for everybody. It might take a little bit of time. You might be like, oh, gee, I'm still sitting on the couch. Is this diet for me? I'm still kind of sitting on the couch. If you're still sitting on the couch, then you might have to pay a little bit more attention to how much you're consuming and how often you're consuming it. If you're not going to do anything and you're going to ingest, 500 carbohydrates, yes, you kind of need it for your metabolic rate, but it would be better if you did something with that energy, whether it's walk, bike, lift, swim, run, something, anything, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, some sort of activity. But yeah, I think this diet is unique because it's move more, eat more, move more, eat more, move more, eat more, eat more, move more. Actually, eat more, move more. That's where it starts. It starts with eating. You eat more, you move more. And not only do you move more, just so you don't get the wrong idea, this doesn't mean you have to take your schedule and throw it in the garbage and only train. Every time that you train, you're going to have a little bit better output with everything that you do. You're going to throw that med ball just a little harder. You're going to lift weights with a little bit more RPMs. You're going to be on the bike with a little bit more speed and power. You're going to be, instead of burning 250 calories on the assault bike, you're going to burn 300 calories on the assault. It's going to be small. There's small little things, but over weeks and months, and then even just your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and even just your ability to be a dad or be a mother, or take out the garbage, or play the drums or your guitar, or do some of the hobbies that you like to do, you're going to find that you're encouraged and enticed to do those things way more when you're on this diet than probably previously you felt on other diets.
Okay, Max Power and also SF00 want to know how to start the diet.
It's very easy to start. You just start with some fruits and some vegetables. I do think that frozen fruit is great. So go to a grocery store and load up on some frozen fruit, and that way you have fruit at any time. Take your blueberries out, your cherries, and put them on the counter for 5 minutes. Let them thaw a little bit, and you just eat them straight out of the bag. They're awesome. Great for smoothies and all other things. Get yourself some apple juice, pineapple juice, orange juice, something like that. Maybe some canned or jarred peaches or pears and stuff like that too, because it's just nice when you don't have to worry about like how fresh they are. And if you want fresh fruit, then go ahead and buy fresh fruit, but you'll just be buying it a lot, every other day or almost every day, which is fun. Like I like going to the grocery store and I like getting those foods. So that's not too hard to do, but that's exactly how you start. You just start by eating fruit and vegetables, and you start to smash those in there. You just buy them from the store and and start doing it. And some frozen vegetables can go a long way too. I like to buy like chopped vegetables from the store, but they're a lot more expensive. I like to buy chopped fruit. Chopped fruit's no joke. It could be like super expensive. You know, chopped up watermelon at some of these grocery stores and stuff. It can be really pricey, but you don't have to go the same route. You don't have to follow what I'm doing. You could just, you know, maybe for you just get a giant watermelon. It's cheap, right? Giant watermelon is cheap. And you just chop it up yourself. But yeah, that's how you get going on it. And I would say, you know, to really experiment and to really do it the right way, I would say, you know, hop in with both feet and just get going on it. Pay attention to how you feel when you're eating your carbohydrates and stuff too. And you're eating the carbs throughout the day. You're eating the sugars throughout the day, the fruit throughout the day. As the day goes on, maybe you start leaning a little bit more towards vegetables, and then you have your really lean source of meat. I'm doing 100 grams of protein. You can kind of pick whatever amount you think is appropriate for you. And then I'm usually having like rice or a Japanese sweet potato. And, you know, I'm like dumping sugar on stuff too. Like, just to try to make sure the calories are good. Like, I don't want to do this diet with any sort of calorie deficit. I want it to be like more like a caloric surplus, which I know by definition, if you're losing weight, that you're technically in a caloric deficit, but I want the deficit coming from my metabolism being cranked and from my activity, not from low amounts of food. So I'll even take Japanese sweet potato and some steak, dump some honey on there, some salt, and I'll even dump some sugar on top of that. And I'm not taking the sugar box and just like turning it upside down. You know, it's like there's probably like a teaspoon or two of sugar on some of the stuff. And I'm dumping sugar into my apple juice, dumping sugar on my fruit in the morning, along with honey. And yeah, it's like, it's gnarly. It's weird to eat because I'm like, holy shit, that's really sweet. But I like stuff really sweet. So it's kind of good for me. I think I talked about this before, but these responses that you get when you eat something like that, it's like a drug. It's like you get this hedonic response. You don't always get those responses from your food. You know, when you're doing carnivore and stuff, it's a little bit more on the savory side, and those are pleasurable and those are good, but it's not the same as having something sweet. Having something sweet just hits a different, it's hard to put in words, hits something a little different. It feels like a direct line to dopamine in some way. And maybe it is. Maybe sugar and dopamine are connected, and I just never thought about it or knew about it, but it feels like they are. I know that I've noticed connections between sugar, dopamine, and people being really explosive, because the most explosive people I know, they're like wiry, they're charged up, and they're usually really happy, and they love sugar. They eat tons of sugar. They just can't stop moving. When you talk to them, there's like kind of like just, you know, moving around like they're on. They're like, yeah, okay, cool, and they're just like kind of fidgety, and they're moving around. They're playing with their shirt and their clothes, and they're moving their hat around. They keep moving. It's almost like they're on coke. You're like, what is this guy doing? But they just move that way the whole day. You're like, holy shit. And just imagine how exhausted some people would feel doing that all day. But these are high level sugar burners. And I just assume that a lot of those people probably also have a good amount of fast twitch muscle fibers probably.
Hashimoto wants to know if there's any advantage to going 0 protein for a period of several weeks to accelerate fat loss.
I think so. I think there is. I think there is a reason to give it a go. I wouldn't really plan on like doing it for several weeks without. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't put those parameters on myself, because as you go through, and you might be like, oh, like this isn't going quite the way I wanted it to. But there are people online that have done juice fasts and sugar fasts, where they predominantly are only having sugar or juice, and they lose like 100 pounds in 100 days. Losing weight fast is not always the goal, and losing weight as fast as possible, I don't think should always be the goal. So, like, let's just say, I don't know, let's just say, like, I would actually advise more something like this. I would do it for like 6 days. 7th day, I'd eat some meat. I'd do it for 6 days. 7th day, I'd eat some meat, and I'd just repeat that. And I'd do that like for like 10 sets. So you do it for like 10 weeks. Something like that, I think, would work really, really well. And let's say 10 weeks down the road, let's say that you lost, I don't know, say you lost like 60 pounds or 80 pounds, you're getting leaner, then I would just go every 3 days. And I would start to put some meat in. And then as you got leaner and leaner, I'd start to add meat in, maybe a little bit more, maybe 3 times a week, 4 times a week. And then from there, you're probably pretty good. And then from there, you could even, like if you lost 100 pounds, 120 pounds, from there, then you could start to bring in like starch. From there, you could start to bring in, which you could have starch the whole time, I guess, too, but I wouldn't recommend it. I think the starch will slow you down. I'd rather see you go like fruit and vegetables. But yeah, there's a lot of ways you can do that. And I think it's a worthy cause to give it a go. Try it out and start and give me some feedback and let me know how you're doing on it.
Okay. Bistro1 says, how do you structure the sugar intake around your daily workouts?
I just usually try to have it before and after. So today had some jarred peaches and drank some of the juice out of there too. Threw some sugar on there, some honey. I don't know if I had anything else with that. I think I just ate that. I have some watermelon juice in my jug right here in front of me. So anyway, I had the peaches before the workout and I had some candy. I had some Sour Patch Kids before the workout, did a good 20-minute workout, probably overate a little bit. I probably didn't need as much food as I ate this morning. I didn't plan my day as well as I wanted to. I wanted to get here a little earlier and I only got here about 30 minutes early rather than about 45 minutes early. So I just got a bunch of work in with the continuous rope. And then I also got some work in on the bike. But yeah, that's usually how I do it, just before and after training session. I'm probably more concerned nowadays with beforehand than I am after, but the carbohydrates after, obviously we know the impact of that. That can be super effective as well.
Dig Dug 86 says, would you recommend this for someone who is skinny fat and can't risk losing much muscle mass?
Yeah, I think it has a lot of application for any skinny fat or otherwise. I think anybody that's trying to lose body fat, I think it's a great diet because your muscles are still heavily, your muscles are still holding like a lot of glycogen. And what I'm starting to notice from this, like when I got off the bike today, I just had this like crazy pump. And I'm just noticing like my muscles feel like bigger and yeah, I just feel more jacked. There's no other way to put it. And why am I feeling more jacked when I'm eating less protein? Like we know that the steroids are there, right? So it's not like I don't have backup in terms of like protein muscle synthesis and stuff like that, but nothing's changed. I've been on steroids forever. I've been on them since I was 25 years old and I'm 48. So nothing's changed. And I'm on a lower dose now than I have been in years. So there's nothing there. Like whenever I get my blood work done within the last about 3 to 4 years, my testosterone has been, 700, maybe 800. So I'm not saying I'm natty, but my testosterone matches a lot of people that are natural. There's a lot of people that are natural that have 700, 800 testosterone. So I'm not at some super physiological level. I'm by no means am I saying that my testosterone isn't doing anything for me. It's doing a lot for me. It's really helpful. But I think even if you're skinny fat, I think this is a great diet for anyone that just needs to lose body fat, period.
All right, couple questions coming in. One from Josh Stevens, one from Miranda59 about the limit of grams of fat per day for you.
Yeah, I set it to 30 because like I don't have a lot of body fat to lose, and I'm just not I'm not in a crazy like rush. So 30 is quite low already, right? But what I noticed was throughout the day, and if I eat meat more than once in a day, which at the moment is more rare, but I just kind of got to that more recently. I was still having like 2 meat meals at the end of the day. But with 1 meat meal in there now, it's not hard to hit the protein marker and it's not hard to hit the fat. So I usually go under 30 grams. I think Cole is sharing with people, look, man, the further you can slam those fats down, the better. Like the leaner, the more weight loss you're going to see and all that stuff. So I might even just try to like aim it more towards 20 because recently I have been very, very low. I'm finding that I just don't need as much protein. I don't need as much protein as I originally thought. I don't need to eat as much meat as I thought. I personally, I do need probably almost at least a pound of meat a day, though. It's kind of hard for me to, I'm sure I can make it through some days without some meat, but I haven't really tried that. And that is something I'm going to explore. I was actually thinking about doing that tomorrow and just go the full day without any meat. Now, I've done days without meat before because I've done fasting, right? So I just have to try it with this way, you know, because sometimes when you're eating, sometimes it's like harder because it makes you like almost hungrier, right? But yeah, protein is at 100. I weigh around 212 pounds a day. And my fats are under 30.
All right. Courtney St. Louis says, can you have fat-free whipped cream to dip the fruit in on this diet?
I would just say no. Like just, you know, just any bullshit stuff, just try to get rid of it, you know? On the same, you know, on another hand, it's interesting because you can eat shit like marshmallows and stuff, you know? So it's weird. The recommendations can sound so strange. What I would say is this, like, rather than just tell you no, I do think it's best for people to get rid of any bullshit that they can just do without. Like, you just don't need it. Like, fruit's fucking awesome. Like just learn how awesome fruit is. I think that would be a good thing to do. And also you can dump sugar and honey on it too. I mean, like that's pretty delicious. The reason why I don't like, you know, things like that is just because they're based off of bad habits previously. Like in trying to help people over the years with their coffee. It's always been a tough thing. They want to put cream in their coffee, and it's like not really about the cream in the coffee. You know, it's not this calorically dense thing. It's not, you should be able to throw 50 calories into your drink, right? But it's also like you did 50 calories here, 50 calories there, 50 calories there. It's like, okay, well now you just had 150 calories of something that you just didn't need. You just don't need that. Like, let's just get rid of that. Let's just both admit that's not a good habit. Like, let's get rid of it, right? So try to get rid of those habits the best you can. But also, I would say this, fuck everything I just said if you're losing weight. So if you can have that in there and you can be reasonable about it and those scales still dropping, like some whipped cream should not prevent you from weight loss. But we can both agree that probably, you know, bad habits can, right? Like bad habits, they die slow and they're tough to get rid of. But the more that we continue to try to make the right decisions over and over again, and the more that we can adhere to something, because I think all humans thrive really well on like organization, even though some humans aren't, or like I'm not an organized person, but I can thrive on being organized. I can thrive on like having a plan, and whipped cream is not really part of the plan. Anything that's like in a teaspoon or tablespoon amount, those things are hard to trust. Some things will say like 0 fat, and then you'll look at the label and it has cream in it. Or you look at the label, it has oil in it. You're like, that's impossible. Just can't have 0 fat when fourth ingredient's cream or the fourth ingredient's oil. So be diligent about it, especially in the beginning. But if you're losing weight, you're losing weight, and there's no arguing with that.
Okay. Wolf Mike asks, how much does your metabolism increase with FGF21?
I think it's going to vary drastically. You know, I'm not going to even like say a number, you know, because I don't have any idea. I don't know how big of a role the FGF1 is playing in this. It's all just speculative at the moment, but it seems to be the thing at the helm. It could also just be the fact that you're just like not eating fat. You know, like you're just reducing fat and you're reducing protein, so you're reducing like calories, and yeah, it does seem to ramp up your metabolism in some way. I don't really truly know what's 100% responsible for it, but Ryan and I read some stuff the other day on the air where it was saying that in some cases it seemed to be like burning an extra 700 or 800 calories or something like that. So I don't think any of us should take that like to the bank, because that's not really fair to your own biology. But, you know, could you be eating an extra 300 calories or 500 calories? it's probably possible. I think the longer that you do this and the more strict that you do this, I think the better results that you'll get. I know that Cole is starting to have some days where he's eating like 3,000 calories and 3,300 calories a day. And he weighs 166 pounds. So I don't have any idea of my calorie count. I might count them and just to kind of show you guys what I'm eating and to give you guys some numbers, but I don't really worry about that too much. And how much the metabolism is getting cranked up, I'm not sure, but I know that I was stuck at 220 for a long time and now I'm 212. So for me, my metabolism got cranked up to lose 8 pounds. So 3,500 times 8, whatever the fuck number that is, like that's a lot, right? And that's in the course of 8 weeks. So whatever number that would be, my metabolism is cranked up enough to where my body's cool with dumping 8 pounds in 8 to 9 weeks. All right, I think that's all the time we got for today because I got to interview Stan Efferding in about a half hour. We've got it the Rhino. That's not going to be live, but we're going to be interviewing him, and we're going to be talking about the sugar diet some more. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.